So one time the kids were supposed to change the cat litter and they never. It was their job and whatever. And I was sick and I was in no shape to be changing the cat litter this particular day. But they wouldn't change the cat litter and it needed to be done, or maybe they were downstairs in the middle of changing the cat litter, and we're like, no, we're not changing the cat litter anymore. Please, you come do it, Mom. You have to come do this for us. And I was mad and I felt entitled and whatever, justified. And I'm like, and self-righteous, this is your job. And I hate changing cat litter and I'm sick and whatever. So I was having a fit. And I was walking downstairs or stomping downstairs to change the cat litter and screaming and yelling a little bit about the injustices of the whole thing. And when I was on the stairs, I almost heard an actual voice say to me, it wasn't a voice, but anyway, I heard something say to me, a feeling, stop. You are still able to stop freaking out. You're going to make this and escalating. You're going to do something bad that you can't take back. And in this moment, and like, not that God can't forgive me for, but you're going to say something or do something that you shouldn't, that you can stop that right now. And I was like, no, I don't want to. I feel justified and I feel right and I'm frustrated and I'm sick and I'm mad. And so I continued screaming and yelling. And I said things that I should not have said. And my kid heard me say something really bad that I believe they forgave me for this was years ago, I think a long time ago, but still, as most parents do every time you do something that you think impacts your child, you wonder if you ruined their lives and everything. So it took me years of thinking things like that. And I generally don't anymore, but this has been years. And this is just something, I'm not saying like it's some grand event that only I've went through. Many of us have went through that, at least said something dumb or screamed something dumb and done something dumb, but something where you could have stopped, but you didn't stop. You kept going. And you wonder, why was I so passionate? Why was I so crazy? The cat litter really isn't that bad. What made it so bad? So John chapter 19, I just read this. While there are several awesome points to that chapter, I'm going to focus on who really hates who. It's kind of the title of what I'm focusing on today. And so it kind of goes like the Jews, the Pharisees especially, but they have a mob of some Jews going with them, and they're trying to convince Pilate, the Roman governor, that you should crucify Jesus. And so they're like, Jesus did this, Jesus said that. They're lying, and they're blowing things up, and they're misrepresenting and whatever, anything they can to kill Jesus. And the time of year was Passover. And once every year at the Passover, the Romans, for whatever reason, I don't know where they got this idea, but they have this tradition that one of the prisoners that they have, they will release them. And so one of the prisoners that's in the jail, that's about to be crucified, I guess, his name is Barabbas, and he is a zealot. He's a political mercenary. So he's not bound to make the Romans like the Jews anymore. So he can affect their country or their nation. And he's a murderer. Gotta love that. So he's a murderer. Another person that's arrested is Jesus. Jesus said he was the Son of God. According to the Pharisees, that's blasphemy. I mean, it is blasphemy to say you're God, but they don't believe Jesus. They don't believe that he actually is the Son of God, so they just said he's blaspheming, and they don't like that the people that so many of the Jews are following him. And so Pilate says to them, do you want me to release Barabbas Or do you want me to release Jesus, who actually hasn't done anything wrong, and he says that he is the King of the Jews and the Son of God? And so right there, they could have been like, come to think of it. And I'm not saying God spoke to them like he spoke to me, because the plan was that they would help get Jesus crucified so that Jesus could die on the cross, rise again, save our sins. But in this moment, we're not sure what was in their minds. But either way, when Pilate said, do you want me to release the murderer, this horrific person, or do you want me to release someone who, at the very worst, just sounds a little bit crazy, thinking he's God? But that's all. He's not dangerous. And they said, no, release Barabbas and crucify Jesus. Jesus said to the Pharisees once, he said, you're of your father, the devil. So I guess that wasn't, for them, they might not have considered that a nice thing. But that's what Jesus tells them. You don't tell the truth. You are murderers in your heart. And then actually, after they're literal murderers. And so he's like, so you're like him. You're not like God. Even though that's what you say, you're not like God. And he also says to the disciples at one point in time, he says, whenever you're persecuted for telling people about Jesus, it's not that they're really persecuting you, they're persecuting me. And actually be happy about it, because that means riches for you in heaven, or rewards for you in heaven. It's a good thing. And so anyhow, with that in mind, they're persecuting Jesus. They should realize right off, he hasn't done anything wrong, just like somebody telling about Jesus hasn't done anything wrong, but we're persecuting them or him. We're persecuting them. And also, if the devil hates and the devil murders and the devil lies, and they knew God, and they knew that God does not hate or murder or lie, and they'd had someone point out to them, you're acting like your father, the devil, who does those bad things. They could have been like, why is it that deep within us, we so badly hate someone who we know really hasn't done anything that bad? And we even prefer a murderer over him. That should have been some kind of indication to them or to the other Jews, maybe even to the Romans, what was happening. But it wasn't. Well, it kind of was to the Romans. The Romans kind of knew, but they didn't want super big trouble. So they're like, if it's going to take crucifying Jesus, even though we kind of don't think we have to, we'll crucify this Jew. In our lives, do we ever have cat litter moments? Because they had a cat litter moment. Whether God might have said to them, whoa, put the brakes on. You know that what you're doing is wrong. And not that it would have not fit into the plan of Jesus, but they could have said, okay, no, actually, we're going to take Jesus back and we're going to reprimand him and send him on his way. But instead, they asked Pilate to murder him. They assisted in murdering him. It was first-degree murder, and they did it, and they were fine with it. So where in your life can you see, why do I so passionately hate something that I really don't have reason for hating? Why do I so much hate a certain person that has a differing opinion than me? It's not hurting anyone, it's just an opinion. But why do I hate them so much? Or why do I don't know, you fill in your own blank. Why do you hate someone or something passionately? Because the devil is constantly on us. And we can have that moment of stop, standing on the stairs. The Pharisees hated Jesus without justification, because obviously they were of their father, the devil. Every time you do something that you can stop, that you know is wrong, that you just know you're not doing it because you're justified. You're not doing it because it's going to have a good end. You're not doing it for any good reason at all. You're doing it because you're of your father, the devil. And I'm not saying that some of you, some of us, lots of us aren't saved. That's not what I'm saying. But God doesn't tell us bad things to do, but the devil does tell us bad things to do. The devil doesn't do the bad things. We do the bad things. So if you're doing a bad thing, it's not because there's some right in it somewhere. You're just doing a bad thing.